Once you've logged onto Eclipse, you will be brought onto the home screen. On the home screen, you'll have on your left-hand side a black menu. At the moment, it's empty, but as you start creating a person, you'll see that you'll have more options. At the front, you'll see an icon with the house on it, and then you will have your a name and a number. And just like here first, you'll have your own PER number. At the moment, you can see mine just in front of you. Below, you've got My Summary. Under My Summary, you've got three options. You've got My Summary, My Task, and My Team's Task. This will have all the teams that you are allocated under, and it'll have numbers of files that you're working on or client records that you're working on. And at the top, you can see it's telling you how many are overdue, reminders for ones that are nearly overdue, on time, paused, error, and clients. So those are the ones that you're currently working on. You can see under My Task, you'll have tiles come up just like this over here, and it will show you, it'll begin from the right hand side as soon as you start working and move straight across to the left hand side, depending on when the work is due. And again, you can see work being done under your team at the same time. At the top, you can do searches by person, organisation, and groups. Groups is usually used by children's, but today we're going to be looking at person. And we do keep mentioning to people, please do 3 searches if you're looking for a person before you create a file to avoid duplicates. So I will type in a name, and with the Eclipse system, it will bring up records with that name. You can go into it further if you click on Advanced, just like here first, and it will show you all the names that have Mary in them, and you can expand up to 100 records per sheet. I will cancel that, and if I clear the search and click on Advanced, just like here first, you can either do the search by name, NHS number, date of birth, reference number, a postcode, an address. With the reference number, if you have the Care First number, you can put in the Care First number and it will find the record that you're looking for, as the information on Eclipse is linked to Care First. And I'll give you another example with a name search. And you can see it's giving me all the names that have Mary or Smith in them, or anything that sounds like Mary Smith. And it's providing you with the address, date of birth. Cancel that. You can also do an ID search. So if you already worked on the person and you put in the PER ID, you will be able to see that all the records with that ID on there. It should just be the one. Next, you've got the recently accessed records. This is like a history tab that you had in Care First, and if you click on that, it will bring up a list of all the records that you've recently viewed, so it'll make it easy if you need to go back into it. Then you've got your profile tab, and here you will have all the profiles that you are able to use and work on. As you can see, I've got a few, but this is just for training purposes. Next, you've got your own personal tab. This will have your name, and on here you can change your passwords, but a very important function, again, this is your choice, is to change notification settings. Here, if you want to be notified about anything to do with the cases, you need to choose what options you want. You can have an email or you can have a notification in Eclipse, and it's telling you when events occur in my cases, or in my cases and my team members' cases. So if you want to know what's happening in their cases and get a notification, you can select this option. And the events that that are notifiable are the case allocation, document generation, form reviews, work list assignment, and task reminders. So this is totally up to you what you want to be notified on. You need to select those areas. The first thing I want to show you now is how to add a person. So if you click on the allocation blue button, which is on your right hand side, and then directly underneath it, you have an add person button. Now you've got another pop-up box. Here it's telling you type. You'll notice that there are a lot of fields that are marked with the asterisk. These are all mandatory. You need to make sure you complete these fields if you want to move ahead, otherwise it will not let you go. So the first option you've got is type, and under type you've got adopter, carer, family member, household member of other, client, foster carer or professional. We're going to say client. You've also got the button that where it says unborn, which you can use. Next, you've got title. Title is a mandatory, but I will just pick one just for training purposes. And then you've got full name and surname. So I'll try and create a person on here now. And then you can see you've got a date of birth, which again is mandatory. Now, if you are not sure about the date of birth, you can estimate one, but you will be given an option underneath. So I will put in a date of birth now. You can use a calendar or use the up and down arrows here. Personally, I like to just type it in. And here it's telling you, it's giving you the option if you want, if it's an estimated date, you would check this box here. Do you want to mark this exact date as an estimated date? Which means that you've told them that it's estimated, but because it's a mandatory field, you've put something in. You can go back into it later once you are sure of the date of birth and edit it further. Underneath, gender, which is again mandatory. Because I've chosen the title, it's already selected female for me, but you have 4 options underneath. So you can choose whichever is appropriate. Then you've also got ethnicity, which is a mandatory field, and you've got all the options there. If you're not sure about the ethnicity, you have got the option to tick on not known. I will go for white British. If you have an NHS number, you can add that in here as well. And I'm happy with the information that I've put in. I'm going to click on next. As you can see, it's started creating the person's details that I've put in so far. Underneath it says who is the relationship to, and it's got my name because I'm the one who's created the file. Next is what is the relationship, and here you've got a list to choose from. But I'm not going to choose anything. I'm going to do skip creation or professional relationship because I want to show you how to create a relationship later. So I'll click on here and then click save. You can now see it's created the person's record and it's taken me straight to the person identification screen. And on the side now you can see there are more options from what we began with. The person identification screen is exactly the same as the Care First details screen. So you've got all the details of the person here, and you've got an edit button. Again, like I mentioned before, if there's anything that you need to change, you'd click on edit and it's brought up the edit person screen, and you can add in the correct date of birth or any other information that you've received on the person, or if they've changed their name, you can do that from here, but we're happy with what we've got. And if you scroll down further, you can just see, like Care First, you've got address, contact details, reference numbers, languages, education, and physical items. Another screen that's on the person screen is called the person summary screen, and you can click on the person's name or on the person tab from the side menu to get to the person summary screen. At the moment, there's not much information on it, but this will have all the information such as relationship, observations, latest entries, classifications, and a chronology timeline on the side. We will come back to this towards the end to see how it's been populated. Go back to the person's identification screen. And now I will show you how you can add an address. So go to address section and click on the blue add button. And again, you've got mandatory fields which need to be completed for you to be able to complete this action. First option is reason. It's not mandatory, but as you can see, you've got a few choices to make from here. I am going to leave it on please choose. Location. This will provide you with a list of all the addresses under the postcode that you've chosen, and it does recognise all the postcodes in the UK as long as they are registered. It will automatically bring up all the addresses that are under this postcode. Next is asking me for type. I'm going to say home, usage, permanent, and again it's asking you for room and floor, which aren't mandatory, but if people are living in apartments or flats, you can break the address down further. And underneath is a start date. Again, you can use the calendar or the arrows to put in the date, but I'm just going to use select current date. And you also have the option to do not disclose the address, and that's up to you if you want to choose that. I'm going to click on save. As you can see now, the address has been added. Another good feature on Eclipse is if a lot of staff members who do home visits or want to find out where the person is living, if you actually click on the address where it's blue and underlined, this should take you to a different tab on Google Maps. And you can find out where the person is living. It will provide you with a picture, and you can also get directions through Google Maps on how to get there. Next, we're going to add the contact details. Again, in contact details, add the blue add button. And you've got mandatory fields again. Telephone type, I'm going to say mobile. Just randomly put in a number. And an important feature for this is previously people in Care First used to write in their mum's telephone number, sister's telephone number, dad's telephone number, but with Eclipse, this is only a numeric field. So even if I put in some text and I try to save, it will not let me go further because it's telling me there's an error. So you cannot add text details in numeric fields. And type, I'm going to put in home, and usage is permanent. And now I'm going to do save. And as you can see, it has saved that for me. You can either put an email address, a phone number, website, social media, or a fax number. But we're happy with that. Next, I'm going to add in languages. And again, it's the same process. Add button, first language. You don't have to type in the whole thing. Just type in a little bit and it will provide you with the options. And it asks you the proficiency in English, and again you can see it's marked with an asterisk, and we're going to say proficient. And underneath you can see it's asking you if the person is an interpreter and non-verbal communication. You've got a list underneath to choose from, but I'm happy with what I've got so far, so I'm going to click on save. And that's how you can add all those details. It's very straightforward. Next, I want to show you is relationships. If you click onto relationships from your left-hand side menu, and along the side you'll see you have a few blue buttons. You click on the add button. And here it's giving you a few options of what type of relationship you want to add. We're going to click on professional and then click on proceed. Who is the relationship to? And I will put in my name and make sure you pick from the list that's provided. What is Nigat's relationship to Sally? And if you click on the drop down, you've got a few options to choose from. I'm going to choose social worker. And then it's asking you, when did it start? Just for training purposes, I'm going to double click in the date to put in today's date. Again, you can use the calendar. And here you have to make sure you choose one of the options here. And I'm going to choose allocated worker and click on save. And as you can see now, in relationships, it's telling you that I am a social worker. And here, if you click over it, the little black dot is telling you I'm the allocated worker and the date that this has started. Next, we're going to look at how to create an initial contact. So again, when you're working in Eclipse, everything starts from the work list. All forms start from work list. So if you go into work list and you click on the blue add button on the right hand side, you can see that there are 138 work lists to choose from. But we don't have time to search for an individual one by scrolling down. So what we're going to do is filter. When you click on filter, type in what type of work list you want to create. And you don't even have to type the full word, you just type in part of the word and it will find this for you. And just below you can see it's got initial contact or online initial contact. I want to choose initial contact. Here it's telling you under the task that I can add the initial contact form to the person's record, and it's telling me there's 2 tasks that need to be completed. Again, the second one is faded out, so I have to complete the first task in order to get to the second task. And if you look at the task, it's telling you the owner's name and the start date. I will click on add initial contact form to the person's record and then click on the green add form button. This will now automatically take me to the initial contact form. And on your left-hand side, you can see there's a few sections to the form, and in each section there's an orange flag, and in the orange flag is telling you how many mandatory fields there are in each section that need completing. Now the good thing about the forms is you can minimize these and you can open as many as you want. So you could be working on this person's file and you might receive a phone call asking you that you need to update some information on somebody else's file. You can minimize this without losing what you're working on and open up a new file, put in a new person's record and put in as much information you want, and then go back to working on the form that you were working on without losing the information. And it also lets you save parts of the form as you work through it, so you won't lose any information. So let's start off by filling in the initial contact. So in order for you to get into the form, you need to click on edit. Let's open up the first referral type section. Adding this initial contact form following a notification to assess from the hospital, we'll say yes. Date of request for support, I'm going to double click in here. Time request received. Unfortunately, this won't let you double click to put in a time, so you have to manually add the time. Make sure you use the correct format. Is this referral about you, or are you contacting us regarding someone else? We're going to say third party referral. And as you can see, the form's expanded depending on the answers that I'm giving. Has a person consented to you making this referral? We're going to say yes. Referral's details, name, contact details. Here you would put in the person referral's details name. So any name that you can think of. And putting down as much information as you can. For training purposes, I've just put down a little bit of information. Again, it's a mandatory field, so you've got to make sure that there's some information in this section. And I'll do save and next. You can save. If I click on save, it will not open this next section for me, but the data has been saved. So even if I was to come out of this file, I don't need to type all this up again. It's in there. But as you can see, access to support needs me clicking on edit again. But if I go back into my first section, which I've just completed, and I click on save and next, it will automatically open up the next section for me. So access to work. Are you living or now present in Birmingham area? We're going to say yes. Are you a British citizen or British passport holder? We'll say yes again. And I'll do save and next. Hospital discharge, hospital and ward details. Here you can type in as much information as you can about the ward details, and it's telling you estimated date of discharge. You can put that in. Accommodation status, you've got a few options from here. I'm just going to say owner occupier, and then details of key holder. Again, these fields aren't mandatory, so for training purposes I can skip these and I'll do save and next. Details of inquiry. Now, throughout Eclipse, you will get little blue and yellow boxes which give you information. We do stress that you read this because this will help you fill in each section. Here, it's just giving you hints of what kind of answers that they're looking for, what kind of information they want from you. So listen and connect, listen actively, don't assume anything. The questions below are a guide only to assist you in facilitating the conversation. And it's got questions such as what do you want to do, how your circumstances recently changed, etc. So here it says, please record the important points for your conversation here in as much details as necessary for the worker to understand the options considered. And again, it's mandatory. So we can say and mobility. That's just a little bit of information. But obviously you'd put down as much as you can. Next question. This request for support is in relation to which of these categories in need. So we're going to click on the drop down, and it's got learning disabilities, memory, cognition, mental health, physical support, sensory, social support, or other. We'll click on mental health because we're saying that the person suffers dementia. Nature of inquiry. Again, you've got a few options to choose from. Additional care, connection to resources in community, abuse of an adult with care and support needs, health, money, housing, equipment, concerns about caring for an adult, prison and other. For training purposes, I will choose additional care, but you do have the options to choose more than one. Does this request include an element of support to reduce social isolation? We'll say yes. Do you have savings above 23,250? We'll say no. Are there current conversations, support plans or review work list for this person? We'll say no. And we'll click on save and next. Next step, result of inquiry. And the options you've got is information, advice, signposting and or referral. I'm going to click on referral. And referrals required, and here it's very important that you concentrate to make sure you choose the correct path that you want to take. I'm going to choose conversation 1 or 2, and underneath here it's asking you select the team that the conversation 1 or 2 will be assigned to. And if you are assigning this to anybody but you can't remember the team's code, you can put in the team's name. Will give you a list of all the codes and all the teams with that name in it. But for training purposes, I will leave that blank. And it's not a mandatory field again. And I will scroll down. It's asking you for follow-up actions agreed, contact preferences, consider best time, person and number to contact. Again, they're not mandatory, but you would put in as much information as you have. Here you've got a yellow information box. It says add language and communication needs to the language section on the person record. If contact preferences are unlikely to change, consider adding these as an alert on the person's record. And we've already added the language and communications. Now I'm going to click on save and next, which takes me to the next section, which is a mandatory reporting data. We have to report on services for carers in slightly different way to services for people with other care and support needs. Is this request about the person's own personal needs, their needs as a carer, or both? And you have a few options. I'm going to choose person with care and support needs. Is the person already in receipt of ongoing long-term support? and we've already said no before, so it's pulled out that answer from before. Route of access, and the options we have are planned entry, discharge from hospital, diversion from hospital, self-funder with depleted funds, community other route, or prison. We'll choose discharge from hospital. Has the person been discharged from hospital? We'll say no. Save and next. And now you can see there's no more sections to complete, and also from your left hand side you'll notice all of the orange flags have disappeared, meaning that we've completed all of the mandatory fields. Now you can exit the form. It will all the save because all the data will be saved because we'll be clicking on save and next. If you click exit, you can come back and edit the document further. If you click on exit and complete, you will be unable to edit the document. At the moment, I'm happy with everything that I've put in here, so I'm going to do exit and complete. Confirm and exit complete. Are you sure you wish to exit and complete this form? We're going to say yes. You are about to complete this form. We're going to say complete. Now, if you notice, it's taken you to the Forms tab automatically. And on this section, it's telling you that the initial contact, form ID, date it was completed. And if you look under state, it's got state as complete. From the actions here, you can click on view to view the form. You can click on upload to upload an attachment to this initial contact, and you can do a create document, which we will look at later. Since I've completed the initial contact and I did say I want to take it into a conversation 1 and 2, if you click back into your work list, you see now that this has triggered off the conversation 1 and 2. It's telling you the date, it's telling you none of it's complete at the moment, and it's telling you who the owner is. Click onto where it says conversation 1 and 2. This will take you into the task screen, and I will click on the task that says add the conversation form to the person record. Add form. And here now it's asking me for a subtype for this form. And the options I've got is a conversation 1 and a conversation 2, a conversation 1 only, or a conversation 2 only. Now, I'm not sure yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this, and I will come back to this towards the end. So I'll click on skip. And that should take you straight to the conversations form. And as I mentioned before, everything is on the side menu here. It's telling you there's 1 orange flag with 4 mandatory fields to complete. But if you keep an eye on this, according to whatever my answers are, this section will expand. So we'll start off with access to support. I'll click on edit, and you can see it's already filled. So what Eclipse does is it picks up all the information that you've already completed and embed it into the next section. Again, you can change these if there have been some changes, but I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click on save and next. Conversation details, date of request for support. I will double click to say it's today. Is the conversation about planning for the person's discharge from the hospital? We're going to say yes. Nature of inquiry, and again it's picked up this answer from before, additional care, and we're happy with that. If you want to add in more, you can. Is any care or support being provided by an informal carer? We're going to say no. Conversations required. Do I want to do a conversation 1 or proceed to a conversation 2? Again, depending on the path that you're taking this person through, you would choose either one. I'm going to choose conversation 1, and you will see from the side menu that it will expand and give me the rest of the form for conversation 1. So click on conversation 1 and I'll click save and next. Here you can see it's expanded, and it's asking me now, I'm in conversation 1 detail section, Again, as mentioned before, the blue boxes are giving you a little bit of information of what they're looking for in each section. So what did the person contact? Why did the person contact us? What was the person's reason? What was the reason for the person to get in touch? And what are they worried about? So obviously we put down dementia. We can say requires help with education and care. That's just a little bit of an example for you. None of these fields are mandatory, but in real life, you'd be putting down as much information as you can in this section. What did we connect the person or the family to? What is available to the local community that we could connect them to? So we can just say neighbour support, and then you put down as much information as you can. What happened, and then obviously a few more information, but you'd put down as much as you can. Now these fields, it's unlimited text, so unlike here first, you can only put a certain amount of text, so you've got as much space as you want in these. I'm going to do save and next. Next is conversation 1 outcomes. Was the person connected to support in their local community? We're going to say yes. Was the person connected to support from family and friends? We'll say yes again. Was the person connected to support from occupation therapy? We'll say no. Did you provide the person with advice and information during this conversation? We'll say yes. Date of conversation 1. Again, I'm going to double click. Is a conversation 2 required? And again, this is up to you. I'm going to say yes because I want to work my way through from a conversation 1 to 2 or 3 to show you what kind of questions you will be facing. And again, save it next. Similar to before, you've got more information that's being requested. What is the reason for conversation 2? What is the background of the situation? What has changed? And again, you'd put down as much information as you can into these sections. They're not mandatory, so I can skip this section, and I will, and it'll click on save and next. You've got plan details, plan what support in the community or network is already in place or has been explored, and what can the person provide for themselves. And again, you put in as much information as you can. Here it says what is being done. Checks from who is doing this, neighbour, and then I'll put in a start date, and this is just an example for you. And if you wanted to add a bit more, you can just click on the plus and it gives you more lines to add in. But I've just left that as an example, and I'm going to save the next. Conversation 2 outcomes. Did we achieve the plan's aim? What, if any, are the next steps? Again, you'd put as much information as you can to this section. Date of conversation 2. I will double click for today's date for training purposes, and then click on save and next. Please describe the follow-up actions that have been agreed, and again, whatever decisions have been made, you put them into here. Is this request about the person's own personal needs and the needs as a carer? And again, we said person with care and support needs, and it's picked out from before. Is the person with care and support needs already in receipt of ongoing long-term support? And we already said no. Outcomes and next steps for the person. Again, this is a very important section. So depending on what outcome you're looking at, you need to make sure you choose the appropriate options from here. The options that you have are universal services, short-term support, enablement, EICT or EAB service provided, short-term support other provided, conversation 3 or review required, no services provided deceased, no services provided other, No services provided, person already in receipt of health funded services only, or palliative care required. Obviously, for hospitals, you'll probably be using this quite a bit. But for today's training session, I am going to click on conversation 3 and outcome of date. And again, you can see these are all mandatory fields. I'm going to double click for today's date. And you're looking at route of access, and we did say discharge from hospital. We're happy with that. We'll disable next. Now you can see all of the orange fields from the side, the flags have disappeared. All the mandatory fields are completed. And again, if I exit, I can come back and edit the form further, but I'm happy with this, so I'm going to do exit and complete. Are you sure you wish to exit and complete this form? Yes. And now it's asking me for the subtype. And now I can say that I did a conversation 1 and 2, and I'm going to do complete. And here, back in the form section, it'll show you that the state is complete. So as soon as you've chosen your work list from the work list section, it'll open up a form. As soon as you open up a form, it throws you automatically into the form section here. But do remember to go back into work list when you want to look at what you've been working on. Again, here you've got view, upload file, and create. I think I will show you how to upload a file. It's very easy, straightforward, just like attaching an email. Click on upload, and here choose the file that you want to upload. And just for an example, I'll just click on one of these. And you want to give this a nice clear title and a nice clear description so that if you need to go back into it further, you know what you're looking for. But for the time being, I'm just going to write DON for description of needs. And I'll put it down as a hospital form. You've got sources here. They're not mandatory. And I will click on upload. And now you can see next to conversation 1 and 2, there's a paperclip sign which is telling you that there's one attachment. You can attach as many files as you want or documents to a form. But that's just an example, and I will show you where you can view all the attachments. Right, so we've completed the conversation 1 and 2. I'm going to go back into my work list. And now you can see it's triggered off a conversation 3, and it's telling you it's not completed and I am the owner and the Brum Adults team. Now I will show you how to create another relationship before we complete conversation 3. So I'm going to go back into relationships. And now I want to add a next of kin to Sally's record. So again, I'm going to click on add. And this time I'm going to go for familial and click on proceed. Who is a relationship to? And on here I will find a person that Sally is related to. And we've found Tommy Triceratops. And what is Tommy's relationship to Sally? And if you notice, you only have male options, and that's because I've chose a male. So we're going to say it is a cousin. And when did the relationship start? And if you look at this, it's automatically giving you a start date, but it's chose the start date of the youngest person, which is their date of birth, and Tommy is younger than Sally. So it's putting Tommy's date of birth as a relationship start date. And here you have to make sure you choose what type of relationship that they've got with the person. So now it's asking me, what is Tommy's relationship to Sally here? I'm going to put next of kin, and I'm going to choose carer as well. And again, you can choose more than one. I'll put down key holder. and I'm going to click on save. And now it's showing you that Tommy Triceratops is cousin, and you've got the 3 dots here, and it's telling you next of kin, carer, and is also the key holder. And what you'll notice is we've got another relationship that's automatically been added, and that is Tony Rex, and also down as cousin. And if you hover over it, it's telling you it's automated. Now, the reason this one's automatically come up is because Tony is related to Tommy. That's why it's brought their relationship up. So it matches all the relationships. And along the top here, you've got the filter option, a list, and a graph, and GEDCOM. And if you go into the graph, it kind of breaks down all the relationships. So it's telling you here that Sally's got a cousin called Tony, and also has another cousin called Tommy, which is the one we've added. And then I am the social worker. And if you click on the little drop down buttons here, you can switch focus. So you can focus on Tommy as being the main person. So Tommy will come here, and then it'll show you all the relationships that come under Tommy. And you can also add relationships from here too. But we will go back into the other relationship section and continue with our forms. So back into work list, we want to look at now conversation 3. If you click now on add the conversation 3 form to the person record and click on add form, this should automatically again take you into the form screen. And here it's telling you that there are 3 flags with mandatory fields that need completing. I'm going to click on edit to start the form. Is a care assessment required? Is any care or support being provided by an informal carer? We said no. Here it is telling you a little bit of information. An informal carer could be a spouse, family member, friend or neighbour. Please consider whether the support provided to the adult is support for needs that the adult is unable to meet themselves. Is there anyone who provides necessary care who might need some advice or support on their own rights? So we've said no, and I'll click on save and next. And it's asking for the date of conversation 3. Again, for training purposes, I'm going to double click on it and put in today's date. Is this person currently noted at the top of this form a person with care and support needs? And that's from previous answers. And here, why are we having this conversation? Again, you put down as much detail as possible. It's not a mandatory field. Again, next, you've got eligibility part 1. Do the person's needs for care and support arise from or are related to a physical or mental health impairment or illness? And we're going to say yes. And you'll all be familiar with these categories or conditions. What are the reported health conditions? And again, you need to choose whichever one is appropriate. I'm going for mental health and dementia. You can pick more than one option if you require it, but for training purposes, I will stick to the one. As a result of the person's needs, are they unable to achieve the following outcome? Again, you've seen these before. Managing and maintaining nutrition, we're going to say yes. Managing personal hygiene, we'll say yes. Managing toilet needs, yes. Being appropriately clothed, yes. Being able to make use of adults' home safely, we'll say yes. Maintaining a habitable home environment, yes. And developing and maintaining family or other personal relationships, say no. Accessing and engaging work and training, education or volunteering, we'll say yes. Making use of necessary facilities or services in the local community, including public transport, recreational facilities or services, we'll say yes. And carrying out any caring responsibilities for responsibilities adult has for a child, we'll say yes. Is the inability to achieve two or more of the above outcomes likely to have a significant impact on the person's well-being? We'll say yes. Eligibility decision. Give one sentence to support the social care decision that has been made for each eligibility outcome. Please confirm whether or not the eligibility to achieve one or more of the outcomes are likely to have a significant impact on the person's well-being. Again, you'd put down here as much information as you can, but for training purposes, I will just put down a little bit of text. It's not mandatory, but I've just added the text in. I'll do save and next. The outcome. And the options you have for outcome are support plan required, support plan declined, 100% NHS funded care, end of life, ongoing low level support, other short-term support, information and advice only, no services provided, deceased. We're going to choose support plan required. And does the adult have anyone supporting them with the financial arrangements? If they do, please record the name, address and telephone number to the person here. If the adult is managing their own financial arrangements, please record the fact. And I'm just going to put down no for now. And I'll click on save and next. This has now brought me to the Statutory Care Act assessment returns. Here it's prompting me ethnicity. It is your responsibility to ensure that where ethnicity is known, it is recorded on the person's record, which we did at the start. Date of request for support, and it's automatically put the date in for us. Is the person already in receipt of ongoing long-term support? We said no. Route of access, we said discharge from hospital. What is the single main reason for this long-term support? And we're going to say mental health. And then we'll click on save and next. And again, you can see now that all the mandatory fields have been completed. I'm going to click on exit and submit. Are you sure you wish to exit and submit this form? We're going to say yes, and I will submit. And now you will see under conversation 3, under state, it's telling you it's been submitted. This has now gone to the manager for authorization. Once this is authorized, you are unable to make any changes. But if you now think, oh, I need to change something, you need to get in touch with your manager and let them know that you need to make changes to conversation 3 before it is authorized. And I'll show you now, if I change my profile to manager practitioner, how you would authorize any work that's come through to you. Here again, you've got the same desktop screen with all the work that's showing on here, and I can go to my colleagues' tasks, and it will have everything that people are working on right now. But I just want to authorize. One of the things I can point out here is, if you click on one of the tiles that are there, you've got 3 little dots, and it's telling you what the work list is about and who has sent that work list through to you. Here, if you click on the 3 dots, you are able to prioritize the work list or reassign it. And if you wanted to reassign it to somebody, it's very simple. Click on reassign, type of owner. Do you want to send it to an individual owner or do you want to send it to a team? An individual work list owner, assign it to myself or assign it to another person. And if you click on assign it to another person, if you type in a name, it will find the person for you and you choose which person you want. But for the time being, I'm going to leave that and assign to myself. I'm going to cancel it. But for authorizing, I'll click on this blue button right at the top that says authorization. And that will bring up everything that's sitting in my desktop that's waiting authorization. At the moment, I'm just going to look at this because Sally Selick conversation 3 needs authorizing. Again, we do point out, please make sure you view what you are authorizing, and it's very simple. Click on view and you will be able to see the form and everything that's worked on there. Once you're happy with that, you can click on exit and authorize, and that will authorize the form. I'm going to click on exit for now. And another shortcut to authorizing or rejecting is here. If you reject the form, you have to put down a reason why it's been rejected and then click on reject. But we're happy with the form, so I'm going to say that I want to authorize it. You would put down a bit more information on why they've authorized it, and I'll click on authorize. And you can see now form successfully authorized. I will go back into my worker role and find the person I was working on. So I'm going to go to my recently accessed record or history tab, and there's my person. And if I go to forms now, you will see conversation 3 has now been completed and authorized. And if I go back into work list, this has now triggered off the support plan and the commissioning of care budget. Now, if you go into support plan, you'll see there's 3 tasks that need completing. So we'll begin with the first task, add the support plan review to the person's record, and we'll add form. Again, it's asking me for the subtype for this form, and there are a few options. I'm not sure at the moment, so I've decided I want to skip. And that's taken me straight to the form. And here you can see that there's one section that's got 2 mandatory questions that need completing. Support for person or carer. Now here's all the information that's pulled up from the previous forms that we've completed. Now I want to make sure that everything on here is the same and there's no changes that I want to make. I'm happy with that. I'll click on save and next. And that's taken me to the details section, date of plan of review. I'm going to say today's date. And what is the purpose of this form? So you've got 2 options, support plan or review. I'm going to click on support plan. And it's giving you a little bit of details here. Is a plan still required? This person has been assessed as eligible for care and support, but for all sorts of reasons, circumstances can change between assessments and support planning, meaning that a plan is never in fact created. In order to accurately reflect these outcomes in our reporting to the Department of Health and Social Care, please confirm here whether the plan is still needed. Is the plan still needed? And we're going to say yes. Location of support planning meeting, individuals present in the support planning meeting, so you'd complete those fields. As you can see, for training purposes, it's not mandatory, so I'm going to leave it blank. Is this plan or review for funded services only or a combination of funded services and informal support? I'm going to say funded services only, and I'll click on save and next. And that has taken to me meet eligible needs. Please edit to only include outcomes to be achieved through this support. And as you can see, this pulled out information from what I've completed previously. So I'm going to do save and next. Funded care and support. This page shows all services which are to be paid for by the council are considered when assessing the person's assessed contributions. Only services recorded here can be paid for. So it's asking me which kind of formal services are included in this plan. And I'm going to choose home support. You've got a few other choices: supported living, placement, technology enabled care, equipment for other or other one-off council purchases, respite, regular direct payments, none one-off direct payment, or overnight support. You can click more than one, but for training purposes, I'm just going to click on home support, and I'll click on save and next. And then it's asking you overall start date for this service. I'll put it as today. Who is providing this service? Include name, contact details, and where appropriate, contact person name, which is where you'd make sure you'd added all that information for record purposes. important to me. This should provide a true sense of me, what makes me who I am. And again, you'd put in as much details as you can into these text boxes. None of these are mandatory, so I'm going to skip this for the training purposes and do save and next. Final personal budget. Final budget, i.e. the actual cost to the council of providing the agreed care and support to the adult. So here it's agreed weekly amount. I'm going to put down 538. Adults contribution, I'm just going to put down 50. So these are just random figures. Obviously you will know what costs and what amounts you are working with. And again, it's giving you a bit more information at the bottom here. I'll do save and next. Contingency planning, what you should do if an emergency arises in relation to your care arrangements. And again, you put down as much information as you can into this section here. I'm going to do save and next. Review arrangements, recommended outcomes is asking you, do you want to schedule a review, further review by allocated worker, or no review necessary, end enrollment, we will schedule a review. And date of next review here. Again, you type in when the next review is supposed to take place. You can use the calendar, but you can also use the plus and how many days the review will be taking place in. I'm saying 28 days. If I click out of it, it's automatically calculated the date for me and select the appropriate review code. Again, if you can't remember the code, but you remember the team, just type in the team and it will give you a list of teams. You can select which one's appropriate for you. I'm working on the Brum team, so I will choose Adult Brum and I will do save and next. Statutory returns. How are the services set out in the support plan or review funded? And the options you've got are self-funded, full cost, client and local authority only, continuous healthcare, deferred payments, health and local authority. We're going to say local authority only. Again, it's going to give you a little bit of information in the yellow box here. That's the only mandatory question they've got, so I'm going to click on save and next. Statutory support planning returns, date of request for support should be the date of the initial contact, so it's already added the information in there. Is the person already in receipt of ongoing long-term support? Saying no. Route of access, discharge from hospital. What care and support is set out in this plan? And you've got registered nursing home, registered residential care, support in the community or care in prison. We'll select support in the community. Does the package include a direct payment? Direct payment only, part direct payment or no direct payment? I'm going to say no direct payment. And then it says, does the package include services commissioned specifically for the citizen or block contracted or co-funded services only? We're going to say services commissioned specifically for the citizen. And I will click on save and next. And again, I have now completed all of the mandatory fields. And I'm happy with this. So I'm going to click on exit and submit. Are you sure you wish to exit and submit? And I'm going to say yes. And now it's asking me for the subtype. And now I'm happy with this. So I'm going to choose adult support plan and I'll click on submit. Again, you can see now this has gone to the manager. It's been submitted. So I'll change my role again to become the manager. And I'll go into authorization. And you can see here now the support plan sitting here for authorization. And I'm going to go in and authorize. Change my role back to worker. And I'll find the person. And if I go back into forms now, you will see the support plan is now complete and authorized. If I go back into my work list, this has now triggered off an await review. And you can see this box is greyed out. It's saying not started. This work list has not yet started because we said that the due date, we gave it the 28 days, so it's due on the 18th of January. Now, if we, in order for us to be able to work from it, you would need to have this icon here. But obviously, in reality, you would wait for the 28 days, and as it got closer to the date, that will change what it looks like. But there are situations sometimes where something has happened and you need to start off the review ASAP. So you can force start it. So if you go into actions and select from the side, you can go into start work list. Again, with these work lists, you can reassign them to your teams or other people. You have the options here as well, as well as the tiles. But now we want to force the restart for the review. So I'll click on that. It says, are you about to start this work list? And I'm saying start. And now you can see the icons changed. So if I click on await review, there's two tasks that need completing. I'll click on add await review form, click on add form. And in the form section, it's asking me confirm next steps. Is a review still required? And it's giving you a bit of information that due to the perks and circumstances. I'm going to click on edit, and it says, having understood the person's circumstances, is a review still the correct approach, or is a full reassessment required instead? Now we can click on proceed with review, open a reassessment instead, or close all services. I can say proceed with the review. When you complete this form, a review work list will be generated. Do you wish to assign this to a team or a named worker? And I'll say team. And again, depending on which team you want to assign it to, I'm just going to use Brum because that's the team that I'm working from today. And I'll click on save and next. And I'm happy with the answers. I've answered the mandatory question. I'll go to exit and complete, and I'll click on yes. And I'll click on complete. And now that's telling you that the await review has been completed. And if I go back into my work list, that's now again triggered off a review. And if you click on to add and then add form, and this is again same as before, is asking you what do you want to choose subgroup. And this is the whole process which I've just shown you before. So if I just do skip, and the first section's already been completed, so I'm happy with that. And it's telling me details has two mandatory questions. So I'll go into edit, and again I'll double click for the date. What is the purpose of this form? And we've done the support planning already, so we said review. Is a review still required? And we're going to say continue to record a review or open a reassessment instead. And we'll just click on open reassessment instead, and then we'll do save and next. And exit and submit. Click on yes. And what we've done now is an adult reassessment required. And I'll click on submit. And now you can see now that's gone to the manager to authorize. And as the manager, I'm going to authorize for the reassessment. That's been authorized. So go back into my worker role, find the person, go back into forms, and now you can see that the reassessment has been completed and authorized. Go back into my work list, And that's restarted a conversation 3 because we've asked for a reassessment. So you do the whole process all over again. Next, we're going to look at commissioning of care budget application. And I want to complete the budget application. If I go back into work list, you can see it's 50% complete, and that's because it's already pulled out a lot of the information from our previous forms that we've completed. So go back into here, and now we've got a view form option. Click on that. And here it's telling me in the funding details, there's 4 mandatory fields that need completing. So I'm going to click on edit. And it says worker responsible for this application. I'll just put in my name. Type of funding, we're going to say BCC funded. Type of services being requested, we'll say long term. Is this a new service? He'll say new service. How much new spend are you applying for? Say 100. What will the totally weekly budget be for this new spend? Which type of team are you working in? And we'll say hospital discharge, EICT. Which constituency is responsible for this person? And we'll say Peri-Bar. Please select the relevant client group. And it is older adults. And here it would, depending on the team that you'd pick, it would calculate, it will do an automatic calculation and put in a team code here, your budget code. I'll do save and next. And obviously because it's just a training package that I'm using right now, it won't let me do it because it's not triggered off on the system. So this will automatically give me a budget code, but I'm just going to do cancel for now in order to move on with the form. Request details, again, all the information required is in this blue section, and you try and put as much information as you can. And again, the boxes are unlimited text, so you can put down as much info. None of this is mandatory, but in real life, you'd be putting down the information that's required here. I'm going to do save and next. And here, proposed services. It's asking me, is it for direct payments, home support, day opportunities, placement, or other services? I'm going to stick to home support and click on save and next. Details of home support required. You should enter sufficient information, and it's asking the budget holder to be unable to understand what is being requested. You must specify the times and the days of calls and the number of carers required. So we're saying 3 calls per day, 9 AM, 12 PM, and obviously you'd have a bit more information in there. Service type, again, it's a mandatory field, and we're saying home support and client group. We're saying mental health, and we'll click on save and next. And this now, you would exit this because the scrutinizing manager would need to complete this. So you would click on exit. You're happy with everything, but you have to make sure, because now I've done save and next, the next section is open for scrutinizing manager, so it won't let you exit the form. Changes you made may not be saved, so we're going to say cancel, and that's only because this section is left open. So I'm just going to click on cancel on that now, and then do exit and do yes. You can see now that's sitting as draft. So what I want to do is I want to send this off. So I need to go back to my work list, and where it's got commissioning of care budget, I want to reassign this to my manager. Now, when this goes to the manager for authorization, the manager will put in this, it'll go to the manager will put in the scrutinizing comments and send it back. So then it'll be sitting back in my work list here, and then I'd go back into it and I would complete the rest of this form. And go back to scrutinize manager. So I'm now going to pretend that the scrutinizing manager has sent back comments. And that's what the manager sent back. So it's taken me to the budget holder's decision and comments and queries from the budget holder. Again, they'd put down information as much as they want. I'll do save and next. Home support, and it's asking me to the budget holder. And the budget holder put down a manager, so and approve home support, and I'm going to say that home support has been approved. Amount of funding agreed 638. Duration, and you can do months, days, weeks or years. I'm going to put down 1 year. And here it's asking me responsible team. I've just typed in the team that's responsible. And now it's asking you, please select which broker clipboard to notify. Now, if you can't remember the code for the brokerage team, you can put in broker and it will give you the list of teams. So I'm going to go for broker hospital discharge and I'm going to say save and next. And now I will, you can see I've got one empty section left here. Now this again is that calculation section. I'll just put the information in here again. Just always double check that everything's been completed. I had done this information, but it's just pulled the information back out because of the issue with the calculation tool. So at the moment, because I'm having issues with this, it's not allowing me to move ahead, but I can't do exit incomplete because of the mandatory field still required. So I'm going to cancel that, and you would just click on exit. So then this will, because you've chosen the brokerage team, this will now sit with the brokerage team that it's supposed to go to. But I'm having issues with the calculation section. So now this will sit in the brokerage team for their team to deal with to complete the budget application. Another thing I can show you is now we've completed all of these forms. And if you go into your classifications from your menu on the left-hand side, you'll see it's automatically picked out all the information that we've completed in the forms and embedded it in the classification section. Ended by, end date, end reason, it's got all the information here. And if you go into chronology, you'll also be able to see all the conversations and forms that have taken place. And another thing I could show you is a case note. This has picked up one of the case notes from the forms that we completed, but if you needed to add an observation into here, it's very simple. You click on the blue add button and you've got 3 options at the top. You've got case note, upload file and notification. With case note, you type in the date. You've got select current date or select date and time. I'm just going to click on select current date. And then entry type, again, it's a mandatory field. You've got a few options here. It's all in alphabetical order. I'm going to choose manager's comments. And then you got subtype. There's nothing on for you to choose for the subtype. And here in the entry section, you would type in the information that the comments that have been made by the manager. An example. Again, it's it's not it's unlimited text. If you scroll down, it's telling you who the practitioner is and the practitioner organisation. Now, if you click on save, you can go back in here and add more information. But if you click on complete, you'll be unable to do that. You can add attachments, but you won't be able to put anything in the entry box, and nobody can add anything to that. So at the moment, I'm happy with that. I can click on save, but I've decided actually I want to add an attachment to this. So I'm going to click on to upload file. Same as before, click on upload, just like doing an attachment. Find the file that you want to attach. And I'm going to go for hospital care processes this time. Go to open. Type in as much info you can. If it's a letter, then put in it's a letter. Put in dates if you need. It just helps to locate the information that you're looking for easier. And then I'm going to do upload. And now here you can see it's telling you that there's one file that's been uploaded. You also got a notification tab here, send notification about addition of this case note. I'm going to leave that for now. I'm happy with what I've done, so I'm going to do complete. And it says completing the case note entry will stop any further edits to the case note entry field. Are you sure you want to complete this entry? I'm going to say yes. And now you can see it's added my entry here, and again I've got the file there on the side and I can view it from here as well. But the quickest way, if you click on where the attachment is, click on select and download. And previously in Care First, it would take a very long time for you to view any files from eRecords. It's very quick here. Click on open file, and that's how quick it is. You can view your file. Close that. And next, I think I'm going to show you how to do a safeguarding concern. So if you go into work list and you click into add, filter, and here just type in concern. Scroll down, you'll be able to see you've got your safeguarding concern. Click on add. It's giving you 2 tasks that need completing. Start off with the first one, add the safeguarding concern form to the person record, and click on add form. And it's telling me that there's 7 mandatory fields that need completing, so I'm going to click on edit. Date concern received, so I'll click on today, double click it for today's date, time, who is making this referral, and we're going to say it's a GP, but you'd have got a number of options to choose from. We'll say GP. And you put down the contact details and the relationship and details of the report concerned, and we're going to say financial abuse. And it's asking you more further questions. Now, none of these are mandatory at the moment, but obviously in real life you'd be putting down as much information as you can. Does any part of the safeguarding concern relate to a child or children? I'm going to say no. And the types of abuse. And you've got a few to select from, but I said financial, so I'm going to click on financial, but you can click on more than one. But for training purposes, I'll just choose the one. And it says, where is the abuse taking place? I'll say own home. Has the incident been reported to the police? I'm going to say no. And I will do save and next. Alleged source of risk. Is the alleged source of risk a person or persons? I'm going to say yes. And it's asking for the name. Relationship to the person the concern is about. Do they live with the person? No, they don't. Are they a main carer? No. Are they a member of staff paid care of voluntary? We'll say no. Are they employed directly by the person or their representative through direct payment? No. Is the alleged source of risk a person in a position of trust? We'll say yes. Does the concern relate to a service provider or organisation? We're going to say no. And I'll disable next. Has the person or their representative been consulted? We'll say yes. Having considered the information in the safeguarding concern and the person's views, do you intend to proceed with this as a safeguarding referral? We'll say yes. And again, reason for this decision, add as much details as you can. I'm going to click Save and Next. Check action taken to address any immediate risk reported in the referrer's concern. And again, you type in as much information as you can into this. I'll do Save and Next. How likely is abuse or neglect causing the risk to the adult to happen? And we're saying likely, and it's asking you for a reason. How severe would the impact on the adult be if the abuse or neglect happened? And we're going to say high. And again, it's asking for the reason. And overall risk, it calculate this automatically again. I'll do Save and Next. That's taken me to the next section, evaluation of risk in order to decide if a safeguarding inquiry is necessary. Obviously, it's giving you all the hints here, what kind of information they're looking for. It's not mandatory, so I'm going to click on Save and Next. Inquiry criteria. Are the criteria for making a statutory adult safeguarding inquiry met in this case? The person has need for care and support, whether or not the authority is meeting any of those needs. We're going to say yes. Is experiencing or is at risk of abuse or neglect? We'll say yes. As a result of those needs, is unable to protect himself or herself against the abuse or neglect at risk? We'll say yes again. And now it's telling you the criteria has been met. We'll do Save and Next. Decision to make inquiry. Having considered the information in the safeguarding concern and the person's views, do you intend to proceed with this as a safeguarding inquiry? Again, I'm going to say yes. And it's asking decision, record your defensible decision and steps to be taken. Again, you'd put down as much information as you can. And outcome, please select. The options you have are Section 42 inquiry or non-statutory inquiry. We're saying Section 42, and I'll do Save and Next. And now you can see all of the mandatory fields have been completed. I'm going to do Exit and Submit. Click on Submit. And now that safeguarding concern has gone for authorization. I'll become the manager again. And click on authorization. And I'll authorize that. Okay. Back in my worker role, I will find the person again, and if I click into forms, you can see now the concern has been completed and authorized. If I go back into my work list, that has now triggered off a safeguarding inquiry. But click into the safeguarding inquiry and add the safe inquiry form to the person's record. Referral details, I just click on edit. What type of inquiry is this? We said it was a Section 42. Date of concern received. That's automatically added info. And the time from previous, and I'll do save and next. Is the alleged source of risk a person? And we said yes. Put down the name and who the person is. Does the concern relate to a service provider or organisation? We said no, we're happy with that, so I'm going to save and next. Planning the inquiry with the person and other relevant professionals. Again, it's giving you information here. You'd add as much as details as you can. What was the person or person's representative asked what their desired outcomes were? The options are yes, they are asked, the outcomes were expressed. Yes, they were asked, but no outcomes were expressed. No, or don't know. I'm going to say yes. And that the outcomes were expressed. Does a person have capacity to make decisions relating to safeguarding inquiry? We'll say yes. And I'll do save the next. And again, you can add in as much details as you can into here and put more information. It's not mandatory, so I'm going to do save and next. People engagement in the inquiry, and then you'd write down who else was there. And again, it's not mandatory, but I'm going to skip this. So I'll do save and next. Summary of report uploaded to the safeguarding inquiry. Again, it's not mandatory, but in real life, you would add in as much information as you can. Report of inquiry undertaken and outcome of these. Who has carried out this inquiry? And you've got a few options here. I'm going to say Birmingham City Council only. Was a person at risk involved in this conversation and meeting? We'll say yes. How was the person supported to engage in their inquiry? And we'll write a family member and friend. You put down as much options as you want. And you've got a bit more information of what kind of information they're looking for, and you'd add that into the text box. I'll do save and next because it's not mandatory. Here, how likely is the abuse or neglect causing the risk to the adult to happen? We said likely. Again, we said high impact with the severity. And I'm happy with all of that, so I'm going to do save and next. Again, issues with the calculation tool. So I'm just going to do cancel. And edit the next section. Telling you multiple records can be added by pressing the plus button. Sources of risk. Other known to individual. Type of abuse was financial. Where is abuse taking place? Own home. Risk assessment outcome and actions taken. And for training purposes, we're going to say that the risk was identified and action has been taken. What was the outcome of the risk? And we will say risk removed. We will click on save and next. Recommendations outcome. Closed safeguarding plan, conversation 1, review conversation other. I'm going to say closed. And next steps is giving you a bit more information here. Did we ask the person to express their outcomes? And we're going to say yes. In the person's opinion, did they fully meet or not achieve their outcome? We're going to say fully achieved. Did the person have support from a friend or family member or advocate? We're going to say yes. And details of discussion with the referrer regarding inquiry outcome. So you'd put down as much information as you can. None of these fields are mandatory. So I'm going to do save and next. As you can see now, all of the orange flags have disappeared. I've completed all the mandatory fields. So I'm going to exit and submit. Click on yes, submit. And now the safeguarding inquiry has gone back to the manager for authorization. So become the manager to authorize. and I'm happy with what I see on the form. I'm going to authorize that. Go back into my worker role. And find the person again. And then in the form section now, you'll see the safeguarding inquiry is complete and authorized. Go back into the work list. It's not triggered off anything further. And that's how you complete the safeguarding concern work list. The next thing we'll look at is looking at a short-term response to crisis on open case. So again, in work list, you're going to click on add, filter, and type in the search crisis. And if you scroll down, you'll see short-term response to crisis, and we're going to add, complete the short-term response to crisis, view form, and click on edit. And current status, is the person currently a hospital inpatient or on a hospital discharge pathway? We'll say yes. Is the person currently in the review system waiting for a review to become due? We'll say yes. And we'll click on save and next. Response required. Please select which response you want to record. Service restart, the simple response, conversation 1 or conversation 2. For training purposes, we're going to do services restart and click on save and next. That's now asking you for a service restart or the simple response. Details of actions taken. Does the constituency team need to be notified about this involvement relating to hospital discharge? We're going to say yes, and we'll click on save and next. And that's triggered off a message work list. So date of message is today. Time of message is not mandatory, but you can add that in. Priority, standard or urgent, we'll do standard. Message, down as much information as you can into it. It's a mandatory field, so make sure you put something in. And here now it's telling you select the team that the message will be assigned to. And I've done hospital, so I'm going to click on hospital team, and I'll click on save and next. You can see all the mandatory fields have been completed, and I will do exit and complete. Yes, you're about to complete this form, and say complete. And now you can see the short-term response to crisis and open case is completed. And if you go into work list, you'll see that a notification of standard message from me, the worker, has been sent now to the hospital team. So now the hospital team will have all the information to work on. With the commissioning care of budget, this obviously will have gone to the brokers. It would have triggered off another work list, which would have then gone to the CSAO team to work on once we've completed all the information. But so basically, any forms that you need to work on, you need to go into work list and add, filter, and find the forms that you need, and then work through each of those forms that you're looking at. Another thing I wanted to mention was, as before, when you've gone into e-records and you wanted to see files, and it used to take a lot of time, but we're not dealing with e-records anymore. Everything here now will be saved in documents. Another thing you can do is, if somebody asked for a report, want to see a report on all the work that's been done, so what you can do is, all the observations that have been recorded against the person's file, you can click on this icon here called Create Doc. You also can create a document from forms. So if they wanted a conversation one to be printed out, you can click on Create Doc, and that will say that you're creating a document on conversations, and it's always PDF format, and we'll generate that and that's telling you documents been generated. You can do the same with case notes. If somebody wanted all the observations printed out for an investigation or for any reporting reasons, you can do the same by clicking on the create doc and then just work your way through adult social care for the first choice. And you can have a case note report with an address or without address, so depending on who you're sending the information to. You can keep the address details private and confidential. And then it says format again is PDF, and I will generate, and that again's generated the document. So if you ever wanted to go and find out where all your documents are, or you needed to find some letters or reports, they are all held in the document section from your side menu. Your outputs are these documents that you've just created from Create Docs. So these are your reports that you've created. The case note one, which is just the one that I did now, if you wanted to view it, very quick, open it up, and it's formatted the whole document for you, and it's listed the case notes. So you can save this onto your desktop or send it off as an attachment on an email or print it off and post it out. And here's one that I did from the form. And this was a conversation, so it's got the letter and all of the form that's been completed, if you needed to send that out too. So those were the outputs to create documents. Here's an attachment that I attached to the case note, which was the process maps. And again, you can open each of these files very, very quickly. And here's the attachment that I attached to the form. And it's a lot quicker to view than it was in e-records. Another thing that I haven't managed to show you at the moment was you can put on alert on a person's file. So when you're in person identification screen, you've got options here. Alerts, warnings. So we're going to click on alerts. And we're going to say medication. We'll say forgets to take medication, and we'll put in today's date. And you click on save, and it's added the alert. But for warnings, warnings have to be put on by managers. So if I go back into a manager's, if I try as a worker, it's not allowing me to do that. So I'm going to change my role to a manager's role. And find the person's record. Make sure I'm on the person identification screen, and then I'll click on warning. And you've got a few options here. I'm going to say dangerous pet, 2 dogs, and I'll click on start date, and I'll do save. And now you can see at the top, it's got your long-term mental health support. It's got your safeguarding inquiry. It's got your alert, and it's got your warning. And also, when we've put the address, you can see the address is in the top bar. You can click on it from there to get onto Google Maps. You've got a telephone number. If you're viewing this from your mobile, you just have to click on the number and it will connect the call to the person. It's got allocated worker, and it's got classification. And at the top, it's got the date of birth and how old they are and their gender. And the final thing that I would like to show you is if I wanted to end my allocation with the person. Again, I'd go into work list, click on add, filter, type in there end, and if I scroll down, got end allocation or close caseload. I'll click on add. And then I'll go into add involvement, add the end involvement, add form. And it's asking me for the sub. So I can either close a case or I can end allocation. I'll show you how to end allocation. So I'm going to do accept. I could have skipped it and come back to it later, but it's going to ask me the same question. Next step is end allocation or close case. And underneath here, it says select close case if all worker involvement has ended and no services are being provided. If services continue or other workers remain allocated, select end allocation. So I've gone for end allocation and I'll do save and next. Complete all forms, work lists and case notes you are responsible for. Ensure data quality items are up to date, for example, address, relationship, classification, warnings and alerts. So it's giving you hints and it's telling you what you need to do when you're ending your allocation. Worker involvement summary, and I'm just going to put in there end allocation, but you'd put down more information. I'll go to save and next, and all of the mandatory fields are completed. So I'm going to exit and submit. Now this is going to go to the manager. For approval, we set end allocation, so submit. And as I'm already in the manager's role, I'll just click on authorization. And I'm saying I'm happy with that. This person to end their allocation. Change it back to the worker role. And find the person. And if I go into relationships now, sorry, if I go into forms, you will see end allocation completed and authorized. And if I go into relationships, I must now make sure I've ended my relationship on here as well. So just like here first, end your relationship, put in your end date and the reason why you ended your relationship. And I'll do yes. And now that's given the end date to me being the allocated worker for this person. And now if I take you back to the person screen and we look at person summary, you'll see that it's embedded all the information. So now it's got relationships on the file. Overview, so the last thing that was done was I ended allocation. Latest events, so it's listed all the latest events that have taken place. And it's got a list of all your classifications down below. And here your chronology timeline. In real life, this would be a lot longer because you would have worked on the person's, or people would have worked on the person's file for quite a while, over a number of days. So you'd have more dates here, but the ones where action has actually taken place will be dark blue. And if you click into them, it kind of gives you a bit more information. So the summary screen's a very good screen to look at if you want quick information rather than go through each one of these tabs. You can find out what's recently happened and what's happening on the person's support